no, sa full stack development. Bigyan ko kayo ng short introduction later regarding full stack kasi that's uh, that's that's the top that those are the courses of our web development track here in Coding Dojo. No? So I'll be just giving you an introduction regarding web development and, siguro a few startup codes with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So hopefully, if you are able to do it, no, on your own, probably, ibig sabihin, you can work around with web development as well kasi nagawa niyo yung initial stage, no? So that's really the important part is still taking the first steps. No? Okay? So, start tayo. Okay. So this is the outline for the discussion. If you have your notepad with you, pwede na yun. No? Kasi we don't want you to download IDEs as well kasi we will be only working for a short limited time. So as much as I want to gusto sana makasabay kayo or at least try it out as we do programming. Try to copy what we do or if you have questions, siguro later address natin. No? So again, what is web development? So how web applications work, skills necessary for you, what will you expect to learn out of this, and why is it important? No? So yun yung mga cover natin. Okay, so for web application development, so you do know guys what are web applications. So these are any applications which uses web services or yung tinatawag nating internet access. No? So it can be a mobile application, pwede rin siyang website, like for example, your Facebook, your Shopee app, no, your Grab app. So those are running under web services and they are all under web applications. So again, kung web application development, our description for the work is to create web applications. Pero it doesn't just, hindi natin siya ma-define kagad na pag sinabing web application development, gagawa ka ng web app. So it's deeper actually on what you think. No? So when you say web application development, hindi lang isang tao yan. No? So it's composed of a lot of people and when it comes to programming, it's really a collaborative work. No? So walang parang isa ka lang. No? So you really need to work in a team. Okay. So just to give you an idea, guys, no, how do web applications work? So example, nagbukas kayo ng Facebook. No? So syempre, type nyo sa URL, so fb.com, so that's the client, kayo yun. You're trying to reach out a URL request. No? So yung request nyo gets to be transmitted via the internet. No? So tinype ko yung address ng Facebook, which is www.fb.com. So that request, no, may address yon. It goes to the server. So yung server, marireceive niya yung request ng client. Okay, so yung client, nagre-request siya ng data or he is requesting for something. So yung server, based on what you have provided as the request, no, ibabato niya yun sa computer mo. So that's why, every time you load or open fb.com, no, yung files na yun, galing rin siya sa isang computer. So, para lang mas madaling maintindihan, no, yung mga nakikita niyo sa web server or sa website nyo or sa browsers nyo, every time you open a link, it's all coming from a computer also, which is what we call servers. No? So, doon umiikot yung proseso ng web application. So, you have, you create requests. So, yun yung pag-type nyo dun sa URL, ng web address. That will be recognized by the server, and the server will be providing what you need. So, yung mga magbubukas sa Facebook, everything included there are based or from the server. So, response ang tawag doon. So, as web developers, your job or your future job will be to create what the server provides to the client. Yung mga nakikita nyo sa web page or yung nakikita nyo every time someone opens fb.com. No? So, yun po yung parang overall short description of how web applications work. No? So, they are all coming from a source or server. Okay? So, just the importance of web application. So, madali naman maintindihan yung importance niya kapag wala na siya, di ba? So, ganun. Doon mo lang ma-appreciate yung importance sa isang bagay pag wala na. So just imagine a world without, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, um, Skype, Zoom. Those are all web applications. No? They are all utilizing the internet access to provide services. So a world without them is probably, and I don't, so, hindi ko rin ma-imagine kung ano yung mundo natin without them. So that's why they're really important. And it's been part of our lifestyle, no? So yung technology, the web app, it's there to stay. And with that, also the improvement of our um, lifestyle. Kumbaga, dependent na dyan yung iba, dependent dyan yung communication, yung work, no? So it's really important, no? And it's there to stay. So that's what's good with IT, no? It's there to stay. Web applications are there to stay. Ibig sabihin, if you are an IT professional or web developer, hindi ka mawala ng work, di ba? Kasi regardless of the pandemic, no, dumating man yung pandemic, yung mga web services, it won't be going anywhere. Kasi sa internet lang naman sila nakabase. So, probably you won't lose your job. Plus, you can be stationed remotely. No? So, yun na maganda. So, this is what we are currently offering. No? So, yung full stack web development, which is, pag sinabing full stack, so I know some of you have tried browsing mga job vacancies. No? Gusto ko mag-programmer. So, maybe some of your relatives, no, nagre-recommend din. That's why you're here. Try mo kaya mag-IT, di ba? Malaki daw sahod dito ka mag-anak natin eh. So, mga ganyan. Mga ganun, ayaw maririnig. And probably those are one of the reasons why you're here na. If you tried searching for available jobs, for example, sa LinkedIn, JobStreet, JobsTV, mga job searching sites, most of what you'll see now are full stack web developers or full stack developers. So, that's the term. So, pag sinabing full stack, what does it mean? No? So when you say full stack, it's actually composed of two things, which is front end at back end. Kasi before they are two separate jobs. So kapag front end ka, you are the one in charge in creating what the clients see. So ito yung visuals ng web application nyo. No? So yung layout, yung mga text, yung mga pictures na nakikita every time we load the page, sila yung gumagawa nun. So what we call them are front-end developers. So yung back-end developers naman, they are the one doing the magic. When you say magic, for example, you press something dun sa, or kasi analogy na lang, maglalagin kayo kay Facebook, di ba? So, syempre, yung tatype nyo kay Facebook login page, yung username nyo, saka yung password nyo. So, yung nagpa-process nun at nagre-recognize kung kayo talaga yung may-ari ng account na yun or hindi, is the back-end. So, the back-end does the processing of what you type or what you do dun sa web interface. No? So, this one is where the magic happens. And yung front-end, this is what you currently see. So, yung text box kung saan kayo nagtatype, yung mga pictures, yung mga text, yung layout ng web page, those are created by front-end developers. And they are two different people. Pero sa ngayon, kaya na siya gawin ng isang tao. No? So, kaya ang tawag sa kanya, full stack web developers. Kasi you can do both. No? So, you can do both. So, pag front-end ka, these are just terminologies. So, maybe some of you have background with IT, no? Ito yung mga may encounter yung language. So, we'll be doing coding kasi, di ba? So, magko-code tayo. So, parang English grammar yan. Natututo tayo ng panibagong language, no? So, ganun yun. So, the language you need to prepare with, if you want to be a front-end developer, are HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and of course, a few background regarding UI and UX design. No? So, user experience and user interface design yan. No? So, sila yung gumagawa ng parang layout ng web application, ng website, no? Tapos, saka mo siya ita-transfer through coding. No? So, those are just some of the terminologies you need to be familiar when it comes to front-end developers. Okay, so sa back-end naman, so these are just some. There's a lot. Pag sinabi kong a lot, sobrang dami. Siguro around 20 to 30, no? Frameworks and languages. No? So these are just examples. You can use Python, Java, Ruby, Node. Node is a framework for JavaScript. PHP, and many more. Sobrang dami po talaga nila. No? Pero sir, lahat ba yan kailangan mo aralin or dapat magaling ka dyan? Hindi naman. No? Hindi naman. You just need to be familiar with a full stack. So that's what's important. You need to be familiar with a full stack. Kasi that's enough for you to create a web application. No? So hindi naman yan lahat gagamitin nyo So for example, sa backend, will I be using Python, Java, Ruby, Node, PHP in one application? No. Usually isa lang dyan. No? So yung lahat ng front-end language and one back-end language. So that's how full stack works. And if you're able to master both or able to do both, then that means more job opportunities for you, right? Kasi kapag full stack ka, you're good in both worlds. Kaya ko mag-frontend, pwede ako mag-frontend developer. Kaya ko rin mag-backend. So, ibig sabihin, kaya ko rin mag-backend developer. If I can do both, then that's a full stack developer. No? So, mas mataas ba rate nun? Definitely. Kasi mas mahirap yun Diba? So, yeah. So, those are the terminologies. I'll be focusing with the front end muna. So, just to give you an introduction regarding yung mga tools na ginagamit, being specific with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Okay. May questions kayo doon? Okay, so student. Address natin yung question later siguro. Mamaya, pwede na ba tayo magsagot ng question or mamaya na content?
Later na lang siguro para isahang bagsak.
Marvin, I'll be answering your question after, no? Tapusin na natin yung short workshop natin. Okay, so skills you need to learn. So again, hindi naman siya inherit, no? So pag sinabi inherit, baka isipin nyo dapat meron ka na kagad yan. No? So this can all be learned and developed as you go. No? So technical skills, we'll be doing technical stuff, syempre. So kailangan mo na definitely ng technical skills or you'll be developing it along the way. Logical and analytical skills doesn't really mean you need to be good in math, but siguro it's a plus. If you're naturally good in math, siguro it's a plus. Pero if you're not good in math, I don't see it as a problem, no? For you to be starting to learn how to code. Creativity as well, no? So creativity. So these are the things that should be developed, no? As you go with programming. Generally with programming naman, hindi specific sa isang language na. So those three usually come up together. Okay, so just a quick rundown. Technical skills, ano yung mga technical skills? Programming language, mastery of a programming language. So this is the code we use to create the application. So para may idea kayo, applications, any applications being run on the computer are created using instructions. So yung instructions na yon, code ang tawag doon. No? So para makagawa ka ng code, you need to learn a language. So meron tayo wait lang, pakita ko na lahat. So marami tayong language na pwedeng gamitin, especially for web applications. Ito yung mga example ko kanina. Diba? So marami sila. Again, you don't need to learn all of them, just enough for you to create a full stack. Bakit? Kasi most of those language are sharing the same concept or pattern. So ibig sabihin, if you were able to master, let's say, Ruby on Rails. So Ruby on Rails has a similar setup, let's say, with C++ or Perl. So it's easy for you to learn Perl as well. Diba? Kasi na-master mo na yung Python. No? So that's usually how developers, change. Nag-evolve din ang developers. So just, depende sa demand ng tech world. Kasi nag-iiba-iba yung platform. So 2015 to 2018, uso is PHP. Pagdating ng 2019, 2020, nauso yung mga frameworks, React, Angular, Node, no? So the language you should be learning should be based on the demand. Yan. So it will come a long way din naman kasi kapag establish ka na ng startup with coding, kasi once you start coding, you'll never stop coding. So yun yung sasabi ko madalas kasi you know how to code na So marunong ka na, madaling mag-aral ng iba pang language. You really just need to take a few steps ahead. So yung first few steps talaga yung mahirap pero you'll definitely get it. Okay, frameworks and tools. So kung medyo familiar ka na sa language, that's the time you look for a framework. No? So step by step to. No? So pag proficient ka na sa isang language, that's the time you use the tool or supplementary tool or framework for that particular language. No? So yeah, so JavaScript has several frameworks. C++, C++ has also several frameworks. PHP has several frameworks as well. Pero ano siya, ladder-based siya. You need to learn how to read the language muna before you are able to use the frameworks. Okay. Next is IDEs and platforms. So, I say IDE and platforms, ito yung ginagamit para mag-code. So, ito yung environment kung saan tayo nagko-code. So, later, I'll be showing you an example of an environment. So, usually, ginagamit namin dito is mga free naman. So, anyone can start coding talaga without paying a single penny. Okay. So, just to give you an idea kung ano itsura ng mga codes, it's not all like this, but this is one. So, this is in Python. Python siya. So, pure gibberish, di ba? So, I know. Pag nakita ka talaga ng ganyan, madi-discourage ka.
Welcome to the Philippines, guys. At least hindi siya manok na tumitila. So, I'm just gonna reiterate, it happens. You're not in the Philippines kung walang ganun. Diba? Maghaharaya kayo if you agree. Who has been working from home and experienced it? Oh, diba? So, it's okay, Sir Emil. Please continue. Thank you so much, guys.
Okay lang. Sorry din yung dog ko kasi. Gusto niyang sumali din. Pero, pinalabas ko na siya. Okay. So, as I said, focus tayo sa front end for today. We'll be focusing with 3 language. Hindi natin madi-discuss lahat. Just enough for you to get started with those languages. So just to give you an introduction regarding this. Okay, so I'm talking specifically with 3 languages sa front end. So you have HTML, no? So HTML is hypertext markup language. Yan. It's composed of tags. Ang tawag sa kanya tag-based language siya. So tags. Puro tags. So yun yung unique difference sa ibang language. So similar with XML, no? It's composed of tags. So, siya yung nag-act as structure. So, bone structure siya. So, kung compare natin siya with human, no? So, ito yung bone structure nyo. So, this gives you the structure of the code or the web application. No? So, isa yung skeleton ng website. Okay, next. You have CSS. No? So, yung CSS, ito yung skin. So, this is what gives you color. This is what gives you style. This is what gives you life, no? So ito yung nagbibigay ng parang visual appeal dun sa websites nyo, no? So yun yung purpose ni style sheet. So based on the term, you have style, no? So it's used to add style dun sa ating web application. And lastly, JavaScript. Some say it is the brain, but actually this is a muscle structure, no? Muscle structure siya nung ating katawan. So, in comparison with that, no? So, JavaScript provides functions, no? Or linkage between the skeleton and the skin. No? So, yeah, some say it might be the logic part of the web page. In short, he's the one doing the actions, yung muscle. So, siya si JavaScript. So, these 3 languages, tatlo ka agad, no? Sipin mo, mag-front end ka, 3 language ka agad. You don't really need to be proficient naman with those 3. Just enough for you to understand how to create web applications using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So, yun naman ang kailangan. Okay? Sige. Share tayo. Let me share my screen. Sharing ko. Okay, so this is the IDE, guys. So Visual Studio Code. Pero if you don't have access with this IDE, Pwede rin namang notepad lang. Ito notepad. Kasi medyo mahirap mag-code sa notepad. So, yeah. Kaya tayo may mga tinatawag na IDEs to support us when it comes to coding. But since you're just trying it out, our target for today is to create our first web application, no? Okay? So just to give you an idea regarding web applications, let me open a web page siguro. Okay, buksan ko lang yung ano namin, learning platform namin. Okay, so I'll be just showing you how those three work together. So, example ito. So this is a web page. Web page yan. And probably it has those three elements. Yung nabanggit ko kanina. May HTML yan, may CSS, may JavaScript. So just to see, respect natin siya. Yeah. So kapag nag-right click inspect kayo, lalabas yung code structure no web page. Which is ito. So, HTML yan, you have tags, you have CSS, you have JavaScript all over the place. So scattered siya dyan. So just to show you how important CSS is, let me edit it. Okay, so I'm looking for, let's say, the CSS. So for example, ito. Tatanggalin ko siya. Tignan niyo yung itsura. And this is the platform without CSS. Kita niyo? So it's parang linear page lang, no? So, iba sa inyo kapag nakapag-visit ng site, tapos ganyan yung itsura, isipin nyo, ay, si Ryan, scam yan. Di ba? May mga ganun eh. So, it really does happen. And that's how important CSS is. Just imagine, puro HTML lang. So, this is pure HTML. Okay? So, that's why you need to learn those three languages. And they need to work together. Kasi without those three, probably yung mga web applications nyo, it won't work out well for you. No? So, definitely won't work well for you. So, yung ginawa ko naman, wala sir, sinira mo. Hindi naman, it's most likely, this is just a test interface lang. So, kumbaga, every time you open a web page kasi, para lang may idea kayo, nagda-download din siya mismo sa unit nyo. Okay? So, it creates a copy of those data being sent from the server dun sa unit nyo. So, pwede ko siyang i-edit freely sa unit ko. Pero, ako lang nakakita nito. Kasi nakasave yung data sa local ko eh. So, kapag nag-reload ako, babalik siya sa original state niya. Diba? So, that's how web applications work. So, it sends data to your unit or do sa browser mo. The data is there to stay. And then, nagko-call lang ulit siya kapag may request call. So, probably that's how it works. Okay? Sige, start tayo. Okay, so let's create our first application. So, in creating your first application, always start with HTML. So, that's the first thing you need to learn, HTML. Kasi siya yung bone structure eh. Start with the bone structure, of course. In creating the bone structure, okay, so pwede kayong mag-create lang ng file. So, if you're working with Notepad, most of you siguro you work with Notepad, pwede naman siya. Kaya nga sabi ko, HTML is the easiest language to learn at first kasi wala kang restriction sa tool eh. You can even code in your phone. So, pwede. As long as meron kang text editor. So, if you try to save it, let's say, tatype lang ako, no? My first web page. Sample app. Okay? Walang kahit na ano. Save as. Be saving it in my desktop siguro. Index. And I have to put that HTML. Yeah. Okay, so check natin dun sa ating desktop. Index. Where's my index? Yeah, there you go. So I think index.html. So mapapansin nyo, yung icon niya magiging web browser. So depende sa web browser nyo. So lalabas na yung ating first web page. So that's your first HTML code. Pero kung mapapansin nyo, kung paano ko siya ginawa, it's not proper. No? So this is not proper. Pero just to show you, HTML is quite a friendly language. So bakit siya friendly? Kasi, tingnan nyo, naggumawa ako ng, so let me create another file. No? So ito na lang. Supposedly kasi may mga tags yan. Pero they are not required for you to create a web application. So, baka iniisip nyo, kailangan kabisado ko yan, sir, para makapag-type ako. Probably it will go along the way, no, as you do coding. Lahat naman yan may include as you do the coding. But there are a few tags which you should be putting always, no. So, ito kasi, pwede ko siya burahin. No? So, let me delete those. Ito yung blanco na index.html natin. Pwede ako mag-type ng kahit na ano. And yung mga type ko na yon, it will be displayed on the web browser. Ang problema, hindi standard yon, no? So, hindi siya standard because that's not how you do coding eh. Kasi first thing you need to do is to establish yung structure ng code nyo, which is yung nakita nyo po kanina. Ito. Okay? So, tatype po ba namin yan, sir? Okay. So, para hindi tayo matagalan at hindi nyo na siya i-type lahat, no? Let me copy this, paste it on the chat. There you go. Copy nyo na lang and then paste nyo. Okay, sure. Ganun po ba yun? Pag nagko-code ka, most likely parang copy-paste. There's nothing wrong with copy-paste eh. As long as you know or understand what you copy and paste. No? Sa case ko naman, I already understand those parts. So I'll be discussing to you guys what's the important tags here. So when you say HTML, di ba? It's a tag language. When you say tag language, we have open and close tags. So when you say open tag, similar po dito, kurin ko muna lahat para hindi kayo malito. We have HTML tag. Di ba? So when you say tag, meron siyang open, meron siyang close. So this is how you close a tag. So these are called tags. So pwede nyo rin siyang tawaging HTML commands. Commands are usually identified as tags. No? So these are tags. Yes. This is the actual command, but you need to include those tags. So meron kang open, meron kang close. Close can be identified by putting slash. Just make sure, of course, na pareha sila ng word. No? So, HTML, open, HTML, close. So, ibig sabihin nun, anything you will type in between the open and close will be read as HTML syntax. So, ganun na naman ang ibig sabihin nun. So, this is a document file. This is an HTML document file, and everything is in between the open and close HTML will be read as HTML. Ayan. Okay? So what are the next important parts? So next important parts will be your head. Yes. So head, it's most likely yung mga link references natin. For example, for JavaScript, for CSS, dito siya nilalagay. No? So, in between yan, open and close. And next, if you have your head, you have your body. So, yung body, lahat ng laman ng web page mo, it will be located in between the open and close body. Okay? So, those are the three initial tags na importante sa web page niyo. Okay? So, hopefully, clear po sa atin yun. No? So, every time you start, you need those three. You need to have a tag for HTML, head, at saka body. Okay? So, that's actually what's important for the meantime. But, if you want to use a parang structured na or standard way of doing things, you can use Emmet. Ito yung kapag i-upload nyo na siya, dapat ganito yung itsura. Okay? So, bakit kailangan ganyan, sir? Ang dami pa nakalagay kanina, HTML head lang sa body. Okay. Kaya tayo gumagawa ng web page is for it to be recognized by browsers or search engines. So, for example, si Google, si Yahoo, si Bing. So, maraming search engines. Eh. kung yung website nyo, ang code nun, ganon, tulad ng ginawa ko kanina, walang metadata type, walang doc type sa taas, hindi niya i-display yung website nyo. Okay? So, bakit? Kasi it's not following the standards of search engines. So, okay na naman kayo gumawa ng webpage na hindi sinusunod to. Ang problem natin, hindi siya mare-recognize or probably it won't be appearing on any search engine. Yun ang problem natin doon. So, you need to add specifications. So, this is important for SEO. So, yung SEO, it's another concept for web applications or e-commerce. Search engine optimization yon, wherein websites should be coded so that they will appear on the search engine. So, kanyari, gumawa kayo ng website for your restaurant. So, may kailang ka, di ba? May restaurant business ka. Gusto mong gumawa ng website, no, para sa business mo. Kailangan sumunod ka sa standards ni search engine. Kasi, kung hindi ka susunod sa standards, yung website mo hindi lalabas sa search engine nila. So, kanyari, may restaurant ka near Quezon City. So, restaurant near Quezon City. Pag may nag-search doon or may paresan ka near Quezon City, paresan near Quezon City, tinype sa Google, meron kang paresan near Quezon City, may website ka rin, hindi siya lalabas kay Google. So, that's a thing you need to consider. That's why we follow this structure. No? But what's important is for you to understand those three important tags. Nandito pa rin naman siya. You have HTML, head, at saka body. Okay? Yan. Okay. So, inside body, what are the things you can put? Iba-iba. There's a lot of things you can include inside the body. One is text, basically. Next is images or media content. Pwede kayong maglagay ng video, pwede kayong maglagay ng links, pwede kayong maglagay ng what do you call it? You can add divisions, tables, and a lot of stuff inside your body. So, lahat ng contents na nakikita nyo sa webpage, it's all included inside the body. Okay? So, let us start. Yung ginawa ko kanina, nag-type lang ako ng text. Right? So, I just type a text. Which is obviously, kapag niran natin yon, let me open it sa default browser natin. Lalabas lang yung tinype ko. Okay? Pero it's not proper. Kasi text, okay? Text should have a tag. Okay? So, dapat may tag siya. So, how do you put tags for text? So, for text, you use P na tag. So, bakit siya nasa gitna ni body, open and close? Kasi it's a content. So, again, every content should be located in between your open and close tag. No? So, ang paragraph, it allows you or it indicates that what you will put in between the open P or paragraph or closed P will be a text content. No? So, text yan kasi paragraph form eh. So, pwede kang maglagay ng text dyan or let's say my first web page. Yeah. So, yun yung standard natin for text. No? So, naka-paragraph siya. Okay? So, yeah. Quite different from the first, diba? From the first text kanina. Okay. So, what else can we use? We can add what we call headers. So, yung headers natin, it can be identified as H1. No? When you say H1, header 1 yan. So, pwede tayong maglagay na my first web page ulit. Okay? So, save natin. Kung mapapansin nyo, every time I save, and then load yung ating document file, it will be changing the output. So, ito yung output natin. So, ito yung H1. So, bakit siya medyo malaki? Saka naka-highlight? Kasi currently, it's in header text. So, header text po siya. Okay? So, it's a header text. Okay. So, H1, of course, may H2 yan, H3, H4, H5. Okay? So, pwede nyo siyang palitan ng number. H2 up to H6. Those are header text. And you need to remember, you need to close it properly. Ay, sorry. Iba yung nalun. Yeah. We have H1, H2, H3, H4, H5. So up to H6 yan. H6 is the smallest header text. No? So yeah. So that's how you add text sa workspace mo. So wala naman tayong limitation as to how many paragraphs can be inserted inside. You can put as much as many text as you want. No? So with the tags. What else can you put inside? So at least para may target tayong ginagawa, guys, no? Meron ako sample dito. So I know it's a site. Hindi natin siya ma-accomplish without anything special. No? Definitely, you can only do this by using CSS as well. Pero at least para may target tayo, try natin itong gayahin. No? So, try natin siya gayahin. So, what do we need to do? Okay. So, we'll be using a few text muna. So, target natin siguro yun nasa ibabaw. This one, sa taas. Okay? Itong area na to. Okay, so how will we do this? So, we need to create a box first. So, box yan eh. This is a box sa taas. So, sa index natin, since alam nyo na kung paano maglagay ng text, okay? So, let me erase this. Balik tayo sa blank. Gagawa tayo na tinatawag nating divisions. So, what are divs? Divs is parang area groupings ng web page nyo. Okay? So, I know it's really hard to understand for now, but just imagine, yung mga web applications na binubuksan nyo, those are composed of boxes. Okay? So, bakit boxes yun? Wait. Let me try doing this again. Isa natin siya sa Paint. I just want to show you something. Ayan. So, itong web page na to, it might not be visible sa inyo, pero those contents are composed of divs. Maraming divs yan. So, one is, for example, ito. Okay, so this is one box. One. Some box yan. Then, you have another box here. That's two. Okay? So, you have another box dito sa baba. That's three boxes. Okay? So, inside the first box, you have another bigger box sa loob. Yan. It's within the first box. And then, one box here. Another box here. So in short, those are boxes. And that's what you call layouts. No? Mga layout yan. No? So yan yung ginagamit para yung pagkaka-display ng mga text, hindi siya pababa. Okay? Kasi tignan nyo to. Lahat ng nagagawa ko dito, it can only be displayed in a vertical manner. Pababa siya. As you create text, pababa siya. Diba? So, wala kang parang pattern like for example, Facebook, di ba? So, kunyari ito. Meron kang text dito, naka-group siya. Meron kang main content dito, meron ka pa sa gilid or sa taas. No? May CSS yan. Kasi, pinakita ko naman sa inyo kanina, guys, if tatanggalin natin yung CSS, which I did here, di ba? Look what happens. Nagiging vertical siya. Okay? Pababa. Which is hindi naman siya ganyan naka-display kanina. So, kailangan natin yung CSS para ma-accomplish yung web application kanina. Okay? So, how will we do it? So, you need to first create divisions. So, medyo kailangan mo ng planning doon. No? So, you need to plan it first. Ilang boxes kailangan ko. So, ilalagay yung box. Diba? So, let's start creating yung top part muna. So, para mabigyan ko na rin kayo ng introduction with regards to CSS. No? So, doon tayo sa div. Okay? So, for the div, this is a box. Hindi nyo siya kita dyan, pero it's there. No? The box is there or the division is there. And if you try to observe as well, ito, balik tayo doon sa example page natin, no? Para may reference kayo. Tignan nyo. Most of the tags or most of the contents of a web page are composed of several divs. Puro divs yan. Ibig sabihin, maraming boxes. Okay? Yan. So, yan yung composition ng webpage natin, no? Ayan, no? So, yung mga nag-highlight doon, ibig sabihin, it's referring to that particular div. Okay? So, those are divs. So, balik tayo dito. So, divs can be created, let's say, yung top box nga yung gagawin ko. No? How do you add colors ba dun sa box? Okay. So, lipat na tayo kay CSS. So, again, as I said, bibigyan ko lang kayo ng short intro. Not every tags will be discussed. Kulang ang oras doon. Pero bibigyan ko kayo ng introduction sa lahat. Okay? So, lilipat tayo ngayon kay CSS. It's another language. So, I'll be creating another file here. Let's name it style.css. Okay, wala pa naman laman yan. So, dito muna tayo. What we need to do now is to link. I-link natin si HTML natin kay CSS. So, how will you do it? So, you need to put a tag which is link. Okay, link tag siya. Okay? So, for the link tag, you need to put what we call attributes. So, similar dito, these are called attributes. So, mga options siya na pwedeng gamitin ng tag. So, for the link, gagamitin natin si rel, signifies relationship. So, style sheet yung ka-relationship niya. And dhref. So, saan kukunin yung file? Since magkasama naman siya sa isang folder lang or isang location, it's enough for you to type the name of the file. So, style.css because that's the name of our file here. Okay? So, gusto ko nang mangyari, for the meantime lang, gusto ko lumabas yung box. Kaso problem ko, hindi ko makita yung box. Okay? I can't see the box kasi it's currently invisible, pero it's there. Okay? The box is there. It just doesn't have any visual appearance. So, how will you show it? So, what you need to do is to link. So, ngayon, nakalink naman na tayo. No? Nakalink na. Ngayon, ang gagawin natin, you need to provide a name sa div na to. Kailangan may identifier siya. So, later kasi gagamit tayo ng maraming div. So, magkakaiba ng itsura yung mga div na yon at pwesto. So, dapat may pangalan sila. So, for div, yung open tag, lalagyan natin siya ng class. So, this is one way of providing a name for your tag. So, we'll be calling it tbox. Okay, top box. Kumbaga. Okay? So, itong tbox na to, that's the class name of this div. Okay? So, what I want to do now is to transfer kay style CSS and then ta-type ko si tbox. Okay? So, anong ginagawa natin dito sa CSS? So, dito natin bibigyan ng style or layout or custom na look yung ating element. So, currently, since class siya, okay, we use class, dapat ang ilalagay yung pangalan sa CSS is dot, okay, class kasi, and then the class name, followed by open and close curly bracket. Okay, so you need to indicate that. So, lagyan natin siya ng properties. So, those, in order for your box to show, there are 3 properties which you should type. So, we have one which is border, para lumabas lang yung line. So, let's say, for the border, 2 pixels, px, solid, black. So, those are three things na ilalagay nyo. So, what happens ba kapag naglagay ka na ng ganito? Okay? So, naglagay na ako ng border. See what happens now. Okay. Currently, makikita nyo, meron tayong parang line. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, yung div nyo, it exists. It's there. Okay? Kasi nagkaroon siya ng border eh. Right? So, balik tayo. Meron ng border yung box natin, wala nga lang siyang width and height. So, you need to provide width and height sa kanya. So, since ang gusto kong gayahin ito, I guess this box doesn't have any width. Kasi kung meron siyang width, dapat putol siya. So, what we'll be doing is, siguro set na rin muna tayo ng width para makita nyo. So, 800 pixels. And then height of 500. Para na makita natin kung ano yung tsura ng box. So, save nyo lang. No? So, again, the syntax is yung property, tutuldok or colon, and then yung value, and then semicolon. All of those should be located in between the open and closed curly bracket to indicate na itong properties na to para kay class T-box. Okay? So, save natin siya. Check natin yung webpage. Okay. So, magkakaroon tayo ngayon ng box na merong sukat na 800 pixels ang lapad, tapos 500 pixels ang taas. So, what we're currently trying to copy is this look. So, dapat covered niya mula dulo hanggang dito. Kasi problema, 800 lang to eh. So, pag nag-zoom in, zoom out ako, liliit siya or lalaki. So, gagawin natin, dapat nag-i-stretch siya hanggang doon sa dulo. Okay, so ang gagawin ko, ganito. Yung width, gagawin ko siyang auto. Okay? So, what does that mean? So, ibig sabihin ng auto, kukunin niya, i-occupy niya yung buong lapad ng page mo. Ayan, no? So, mag-i-stretch siya. So, it will be occupying the full horizontal line. Kasi naka-automatic siya eh. So, lumalapad siya ng kusa. Okay? So, lagyan natin ng background color. Kasi may kulay ito eh. So, I guess this is purple. I'm not sure. Blue? Purple siguro. You have also the color picker naman dito. So, pwede tayong maghanap ng kulay. Yan, diba? So, may kulay na siya. Tanggalin natin yung border. Yan. Then, bawasan natin yung height. So, siguro 300 pixels lang yan. Or maybe shorter. I guess 150. So, yun lang, medyo maano sa CSS. More of adjustments on you trying it out yourself. No? So, yan. So, nagawa na natin yung upper box. And hindi nyo siya ma-accomplish kung hindi kayo gagamit ng style sheet. So, you now see the relationship between the two. You need to have the HTML as the structure for the div, and you need to use style sheet to add style or form dun sa parent structure ng HTML command na tag na yun. Okay? So, basically, that's how it works. So, try natin gawin yung next, which is inner box. So, isa pang box siguro dito. Sa baba. Yan. Okay. So, since this box is not inside here, so hindi naman siya nasa loob nito, no? So, ibig sabihin, pwede akong gumawa ng isa pang div sa baba. Okay? Sa baba lang nung close na to, yung first div na. So, let's name it parang image box. Okay? So, yung image box na to, wala pa akong styling for that. No? But I'll be copying these elements as well. Paste natin dito. And I'll be calling it image box. Okay? Yung width niya, auto rin. Yung height niya, medyo mataas ng konti. So, let's make it 400 pixels, I guess. Okay? So, check. Yeah. So, may box tayo dyan na nagdikit lang siya, probably. But, we need to change the background color. So, try ko lang palitan para makita natin yung difference, no? Okay, so ito siya. Kita niya? Okay. So, ang gagawin ko ngayon, gagawin natin siyang image. So, kukuha tayo ng picture. Okay? So, background, hindi siya color. So, buburahin ko to. And you need to look for a URL. So, anong image pa yung gusto nyo gamitin? So, let's look for may picture dyan. Python. Baka ibang title lumabas pag nag-search ako. So, ano ba? Couple moving stuff. Okay. Let's have something like similar with this. I think this is good. Pwede nyo i-download yung pictures mismo dun sa computer nyo. Pwedeng i-copy na lang natin yung image address. So, either way, should work. Pero ang problem kasi, kailangan connected kayo sa internet. Yun. Yun yung parang downside. So, image URL, put the URL there, save. Check natin kung lalabas. So, lalabas siya. Problema, since malapad yung screen natin, nagre-repeat siya. No? So, lagyan natin no repeat. So, pag no repeat, maliit nga lang. Okay, so this is something which is dapat sineset din natin separately. So, gagawin natin, background size, gawin natin 100%, 100%. That way, it will be stretching out. Kaso problema, yung picture quality kasi natin, maliit. Kaya kapag in-stretch siya, lumalabo. So, kailangan, pag gagamit kayo ng content, no, for your web page, supposedly, dapat malaki din or high quality yung image. Kasi kung hindi siya high quality, lalabo siya. So, let's try to look for an image which is medyo malaki yung size. Everything is ito siguro. Yeah, so I guess this will work. So save, copy image address. Change natin to. Paste. Medyo haba yung address. Save. Let's check if it will appear. Yeah, so nag-appear naman siya. So medyo pixelated pa yun. So I guess that's how you work with your web application. So, yan. So, meron na rin tayong image dito. So, let's work out dun sa box sa taas. So, paano natin gagawin itong part na to? Yan. Okay. So, what you need to do to add text here, kasi you need to look for this div eh, kasi dito nyo ilalagay yun eh. So, see what happens. So, let me try adding a text or H1 siguro sa loob ng first box natin. Okay, so H1, hello, or, yan, hello. Yan. Lagyan natin ng text para may indicator lang ako kung saan siya lalabas. Yan. So, doon lalabas yung text natin. Ang problem, doon sa ating layout na ginagaya, the text should be here on the center. Diba? So, sa current state ng ating text, hindi natin siya pwede ipuwersa mag-move sa gitna. Unless, yun nga, yung ginawa natin dito, ikukulong nyo siya sa isa pang div, which is smaller. Okay? So, how will you do that? So, gagawin natin ganito. Balik tayo dun sa ating code. So, this H1, kukulong ko pa siya sa isa pang div. As I've said, kailangan nakakulong siya sa isa pang box. So, isipin nyo na lang na you have a box smaller na nakalagay sa mas malaking box. Okay? So, let's name this top nav. Okay? So, top nav. So, copy lang natin yan. So, similar with what we did with the style sheet, no? Lalagyan din natin siya ng style. Okay? So, copy ko lang to just to see where it will appear. So, since gusto ko siyang mapunta sa gitna, dapat may specific width siya. Kasi kung mapapansin nyo, hindi naman siya sagad hanggang dulo. Tama? So, ito lang siya, oh. Okay? So, we need to set a specific width. So, let's say, siguro 60% ng screen size. Okay? Pwede po yun. Palitan natin ng kulay para nakikita natin kung ano yung itsura niya. Okay? So, for the height, bawasan siguro natin. Let's make it around 120. Ayan. So, ito po siya. Kaya, kita nyo yung white part na yan. Okay? So, meron tayong box. Problema natin, hindi siya nakalagay sa center. Okay? So, how will we move the box to the center? So, since naka-separate naman na yung box natin, you'll be introduced with another attribute which is margin. No? So, everything which has something to do with positioning, lalagay dito yan, i-move dito yan, lahat yan ginagawa sa CSS. So, I'm using margin. Okay, no margin sa top, so 0. And the rest will be automatic. So if you do that, your content should be located on the center of its parent. Okay? So check po natin ulit. So natin, nasa gitna na po siya. Okay? So, it's currently centered. Medyo pangit na ng pwesto, no? Pero at least our text is already on the center of the screen. So, pwede ko nang tanggalin yung ating background color. Save. Tasa natin yung width siguro. And let's put a margin sa taas, around 10 pixels. Yan. Diba? Okay, so you have the text already here on the center part. So, kaso wala siya dito. So, dapat hindi siya. Okay, so if that's the case, no, you need to align text. So, align, pati alignment ng text. You need to work with that. No? So, text, align, vertical, align, middle. Let's try middle. Yeah. Ayun. So, hindi siya for vertical align. So, text align. Okay, justify and center. Okay, center. Yeah, so, mapupunta siya sa gitna. Okay, so as you can see here, maraming commands. No? So that's also an initial challenge for CSS. Kasi daming commands. Do you need to memorize everything? Hindi naman. If you are working with an IDE, so this is an IDE kasi, if there's a command which you need to look for, usually may keywords yan. Okay? So since may keyword siya, pwede natin siyang hanapin through typing the keyword. So for example, related sa text. So tatype yung text. So lalabas lahat ng available options nyo. Okay? So text, decoration, justify, orientation, makita yung for vertical alignment. Pero there is actually a direction for that. Flex, not sure. So suppose it is for vertical alignment. It will be moving the text to center. No, dito mismo, sa middle part. Only center kasi dito. So try ko justify, ha? Anyway. So that's how we include text and that's how you play around with the CSS. No? So linkage siya. So nakalink siya. So everything you change here will be applied dun sa ating HTML code. Okay? So how about the JavaScript? So for the JavaScript, these are for trigger based lang naman. No? So just to show you guys how it works. So maglalagay lang ako ng button. Click me. Okay? So, ito siya. Okay? So, ganito wala naman nangyayari pag pinipindot yan. Your HTML, your CSS is not capable of reading user actions. So, kunyari, may ginagawa kayo sa screen. Diba? May pinindot kayo, may dinrag kayo, may hinover kayo. Those two languages cannot detect what you do. Unless gagamit kayo ng JavaScript. Okay? So, let's try adding a JavaScript dito. So, parang style sheet din siya. Nililink lang din. So, we'll be using script and then SRC yung keyword. So, it means source. Saan kukunin yung script. So, gagawa ako ng script dito. my.js. So, it indicates that it's a JavaScript file. So, lalagay lang natin dito my.js. Ibig sabihin, recognize na yung JavaScript natin dito sa workspace natin. So, gagawa lang ako ng parang code kay my.js, which is a function. Click me. So this is an arrow function. And naka-indicate dito ano yung gagawin kapag pinindot ko yung button. So, ang gagawin ko lang alert, you press the button. So welcome user. So, may mag-alert lang na message. So, probably that's what I want to happen. So, ito yung pangalan ng ating function. Copy lang natin siya. Then, what I want to do is to put it dun sa ating on-click option. So, yung gagawin sa on-click is, kapag yung button pinindot, tatawagin niya ngayon itong instruction na to, and then itong instruction na to, gagawin niya po ito. Okay? So, yun na naman yung purpose ng JavaScript natin. Pero marami pa siyang pwedeng gawin kasi nade-detect niya yung mga tinype nyo, kaya niyang i-read yung tinype nyo, kaya niyang i-monitor yung actions na currently ginagawa niyo sa mga browsers. So, that's how powerful JavaScript is. Okay? So, let's put click me, which is a function. So, save. Try lang ulit natin by loading. So, pag pinindot natin yung button, JavaScript will detect that we were able to press the button and it will prompt up dun sa screen. So, si JavaScript, capable siya in doing computations. Si HTML kasi, saka si style sheet, hindi niya kayang gawin yun. So, let's say I want to display 5 plus 5. Diba? So, 10 yun. So, try lang natin display dito. So, the sum, let's display two things. No? So, alert, mag-alert tayo ng 2 beses. 5 plus 5. Yeah. So, it will display 10. So, marunong mag-compute si JavaScript. So, you press the button, welcome user, and you have 10. So, that is 5 plus 5. So, most of the logic parts of the front end, ginagawa ni JavaScript. So, trigger-based event siya. Okay? So, to wrap things up, no? At least nagkaroon kayo ng introductions dun sa front-end language. No, it's too many to understand or parang hirap siya aralin talaga at first. As I've said, sa umpisa talaga mahirap yan, especially if you're someone coming from a zero background. Pero kung nagawa nyo to initially, yung ginawa natin today, probably there's a high chance for you to learn more. Or there is more opportunity for you to learn. Diba? Kasi we're able to follow eh. Tapos naiintindihan mo yung ginagawa mo. So that's what's important. No? You understand what you're currently doing. No? Kasi if you already understood what we did today, that means you are able to learn more complex stuff pa as we go on with more tags. Kasi sa HTML, marami pang tags. You need to deal with forms, style sheet, layout. You have also style sheet frameworks as well. For example, Bootstrap. No, si Bootstrap. Yan. Okay? Si Bootstrap is one of the most used CSS bundles na pwede mong gamitin sa web application mo. Pero, kailangan marunong ka magbasa or mag-assign ng classes. So that's the thing you need to understand for Bootstrap. Sa JavaScript naman, you need to understand how it works first, yung mga basic foundation ng JavaScript, in order for you to use frameworks. So marami kasing frameworks sa JavaScript. Okay? So let me wrap up things. So more than an hour na siguro tayo nag-discuss, no? Yan. So with logical and analytical skills, nag-develop tayo na parang dummy site, no? Something na tinry lang natin gayahin, pero time isn't enough for us to finish it. Just to give you enough introduction regarding how to set up your web page. Marami pang concepts na kailangan aralin. I tell you guys, wala pang 10% yung diniscuss ko. Talagang maraming kailangan i-cover. Pero at least you know how to start up na. Diba? So that's what's important. You are able to take the first step. No? Kasi if you're able to take the first step, you can play around with more codes. Diba? And you understand, okay, may code na bago para saan to, ano nagagawa nito. Okay? Wala tayong ginawang math. Okay? So 5 plus 5, that's it. So there's no really complex mathematical equation sa programming. Huwag kayong matakot kung mahina kayo sa math. Again, ang purpose ng computer is mag-compute. So bakit kailangan maging magaling ka sa math kung mayroong computer na magko-compute para sa'yo? Okay? So computers are there to compute for us. What we need to do or understand is how we put equations. So equations, syempre, madaling magbigay ng equation. Diba? Parang sa exam yan eh. Yung teacher mo gagawa ng problem na mahirap, papagawa niya sa'yo. So, syempre, yung mahihirapan, yung sasagot. Diba? Pero if yung gagawa, computer, I don't think it will be a problem. Kasi it is work, no? Trabaho niya mag-compute. Okay? So, for analytical skills, it's a way of thinking and ang purpose natin, kaya ini-improve natin yung logic and analytical skills nyo is para maging good problem solvers kayo. Okay? So, those are the things which will be developed unconditionally. So, if you're a developer, di mo alam, nagiging creative ka na, tapos tumataas yung logical and analytical skills mo. It happens as you do more code. No? So, hindi yan magic na bigla kang nagiging dati. Hindi naman ako ganun kaano with those parts. Pero ngayon, medyo familiar na ako. That's because you've worked with so many problems na, di ba? You were able to accomplish and solve it. So, yung creativity, mag-build up nyo rin yan. Magiging good problem solvers din kayo along the way. Okay, so what can you expect? Iba expectation pag nag-start mag-coding madali and you'll be becoming professionals within a short period of time. Hindi ganun. Probably the first few weeks, it will be like, what the heck am I doing? What do I need to search for next? So those are the frequent questions you'll be asking yourself. I don't know why it's running. I don't know why it's not running. So yun yung mga questions na magpa-pop up sa isip mo. And you'll answer those questions as you create more. No? So curiosity kasi talaga ang foundation ng mga good programmers. No? Curiosity. So sa atin kasi, as I compare it with other professions, like for example, with doctors, di ba? So sila, very crucial ang work nila kasi isang mali lang nila, it may cost the life of the patient. Sa atin, as we do coding, kahit magkamali ka na 100 beses, okay lang. Bakit? Kasi pwede kang pwede mong i-undo eh. Pwede kang magbura. So, you should be brave enough to try a lot of things or approaches. Kasi wala namang parang touch move sa programming eh. Okay? Walang touch move. You have unlimited number of takes. So, sky's the limit, right? So, try until you develop your own skills. So, gano'n lang talaga. So, kahit ilang beses mag-error yan, okay lang kasi maayos mo. No? Yun ang difference ng profession natin. And life of a programmer is really complex and is dependent on the projects you have worked with. No? So, a programmer has been a programmer for 10 years but only has done 2 projects in his lifetime is wala siya sinabi sa programmer na nakagawa ng 10 within 1 year. Wala siya doon. Okay? Because he is already very open with so many approaches na eh. 10 na yung nagawa niya within the span of 1 year compared with someone who is a programmer pero 2 projects na nagawa niya within 2 years. So, I don't know the reason why konti lang nakuha niya, pero probably you should be open for opportunities. That's why you take this as a parang new source of income, di ba? So, if you can work on development projects, so pwede kang mag-take kahit part-time or sideline, di ba? While you're not giving up your profession. Kasi ayaw rin naman namin na i-give up niyo yung profession niyo eh. Di ba? So, for example, engineer ka or teacher ka, go ahead, teach. But if you have an additional skill which you can use to earn, di ba? Why not? Di ba? So, it gives you more opportunity to grow plus more opportunities to earn. So, yun naman ang objective natin, di ba? To maximize our skill sets. No? Okay, so why should you learn this? Maraming jobs available. Always in demand ng IT. Always. Okay? Always yan. Tapos, you are amenable to work remotely. Yan. So, I say remotely, you can take on projects, let's say from abroad, no? Kasi may mga ganong cases eh. May mga projects abroad, they need developers. Babatuhin ka lang nila ng task. You need to develop or finish that and make sure you report for a number of weeks. After that, you get paid. Di mo kailangan mag-report sa physical office. And that is a process, by the way, which is slowly being implemented on other countries as well. So just imagine you're taking your vacation somewhere in Boracay, tapos nag-work ka. Possible, kasi hindi mo kailangan mag-report sa office. As long as you're able to report your tasks. No? So those are just one of the jobs which is possible you can work remotely. Marami namang iba pang work, pero IT is the one frequently being open for remote work. No? Yeah. So, cumbersome. It's hard to learn web development because sinasabing madali siya, pero kaya. Okay? Kaya siya. So, even without any background with coding, you can learn it. Okay? It's something you can learn. So, don't be afraid. No? So, don't be afraid. Try to learn it. It's a skill which is a lot of people are afraid, especially if you are, para sa mga bata lang. It's not true. Hindi siya para sa mga bata lang kasi we do have cohorts which is they're 40s, 50s, but they still try to learn programming and they can, no? So hindi naman siya sa age, nasa interest yan. Kasi kung bata ka nga tapos parang wala kang interest, then what makes you better doon sa may edad pero dedicated siya to learn and he's really interested. So don't judge yourself. Again, take more and more projects. That's the only way you'll become a master. So take more and more projects. So don't be afraid to take on projects. Don't be afraid to take on projects which is hindi ko pa na-tryan before. It's fine, 'di ba? Kasi that's a good motivator eh. Kasi hindi yung motivator ko actually from before. May projects na dumadating and it's something new sa akin. Di pa ako nagawa niya from before. I still take the opportunity. Kasi yun, motivator yun eh. Motivator for what? Motivator for me to learn the technology being used dun sa project na yun. Mapipilitan akong aralin kasi babayaran ako dun eh. So yun yung motivator ko. Diba? So that's my motivator kasi I get paid. I will be paid to do that. So panalo ko either way kasi I learned something new plus I get to be paid. Diba? It's a win-win situation for me. So I don't see any problems with you taking on projects even though you're not an IT graduate. No? So hindi kailangan IT graduate ka. So we do have a lot of students na totally zero background sila sa IT. They were just really curious about the opportunity. Yung iba career shifters, even though they are working for professionals, they want to have the skill set kasi according to them, ang daming opportunities na dumadaan, hindi namin natitake kasi hindi kami marunong. And we don't know where to start. No? So, yun nga. As I always say, anyone can code. So, if you're encouraged, no? So we would be honored if you would join us. So, that will be all. Thank you. Baka may questions, mamaya?
Yeah, there were questions in the chat box, sir. Kanina. First, yung question ni Janelle, hindi, actually, merong isa yung kanina, si Marvin. So, nawala natin kay Marvin. He said, second year student po ako and gusto niya maging back-end developer. But when he's trying back-end, hindi naman daw siya makapag-design at makapag-render. Alin daw ba dapat unahin?
Si Marvin yung nagtanong. The question was, ano ulit yun? Parang hindi clear yung question niya. Can you turn on your mic, Marvin? Baka sige.
Yun na lang, Marv. Ikaw na lang.
Permission to speak po.
Sure.
Yan po. Bali, gusto ko talagang maging backend. Kaso, pag nagtatry naman ako ng backend, paano naman po ako makakapag-produce kung wala naman ako idea sa frontend?
Okay. So,
and sabi naman po nila na kung ano talaga yung gusto mo, yun dun ka mag-focus. Pero ang question nga is, paano ka mag-focus sa backend kung hindi mo naman alam kung paano or saan mo i-produce yung backend? Kailangan nga ng frontend. Kaya sabi ko, ano ba dapat talaga unahin?
Okay. So, ganito yan. Backend, usually, ito yung general term na maririnig mo if you're working with backend, APIs. So, kaya create ka ng API for this, for that. Those APIs are the ones na ginagamit ng front-end para makapag-load ng data. Okay? So, kunyari, listahan ng mga users. Galing sa database yan. So, yung gagawa ng access control para makapag-transfer ng data from the database to the front end is yung back end. So, if you're asking, sir, di ako makakapag-back end kasi paano ako makakapag-load ng content? You don't really need to load content if you're aiming for back end. Kasi ang purpose mo lang is to make sure that yung front-end developer, okay, can get access dun sa data na manggagaling sa back end. So, probably what you are building is APIs. Okay? So, if you're familiar with, wait, show ko lang sa'yo. This is one of the tools which we use for back-end testing. Hindi mo kailangan mag-render ng content kasi kailangan mo lang ma-check kung may response. For example, okay, naka-off kasi yung server ko ngayon. So, hindi ko siya mapakita. No? Let me try this one. So, naka-close yung server ko eh. Hindi ako makapag-show sa'yo. Pero let me show you an example of API. Ayan. Okay, so let me have this one. Pakita ko lang sa'yo kung ano yung typical life ng mga backend. Kasi backend din ako eh. So. Ayan. So this is the route access, which is back-end developers ang gumagawa.
Ano pong stocks niya, sir?
Hindi naman siya delimited sa stack kasi most of the stacks, they are running on routes. Puro routes yan. Node, Laravel for PHP, they are using routes.
I'm planning to learn PHP po kasi this time. Pero nakapag-Django na po kasi talagang sobrang nahirapan ako kaya nag-give up po ako sa Django. And then I'm planning to switch sa PHP muna. For backend talaga, for web po.
Okay, so ito, tingnan mo. Hindi mo kailangan mag-load ng data, Marvin. All you need to do is to check your API and if it will be returning this, you're done. Kasi ang magre-render nito is yung front-end developer. So kapag may data na lumabas, your work is actually done. Ito yung ginagamit to test if your render is working. So ito yung, hindi siya actual front-end render. Hindi siya front-end pero back-end render siya. Kasi kung yung route na ginawa mo gumagana and it's currently loading something, it's the job of the front-end developer to show this as part of the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So you get the point? So you can start working with back-end naman. So I don't see any problems why kailangan may front-end ka talagang knowledge para makapag-
paano po yun, sir, kapag ano po, like, gawa ka ng simple code, tapos i-render mo siya sa HTML, sa front-end po, gamit yung back-end side.
If you're planning with front end naman, then definitely you need to learn front end as well. So kung yun ang objective mo kasi I thought your objective is to learn purely how to work with back end. Pero kung full stack ang objective mo, definitely you need to also learn front end. Kasi kumbaga hindi lang response yung i-generate mo Kasi always remember kapag back end developer ka, especially for API making, ang kailangan ma-generate mo response, which will be in form of JSON. So ito yan, mga response yan. So itong mga data na to, pwedeng i-interpret to ng front-end developer as actual HTML text, HTML image, di ba? So that's how they usually get access dun sa mga APIs na ginagawa ng back-end developers. Now, if you want to render it, you need to learn both ways. Kasi, kunyari, nag-work ka na, working na to. So, pwede mo na siyang gamitin sa front-end. Now, you need to learn how to convert this data set na JSON and convert it to actual HTML elements. So, either way, ganon. Pero if you'll be asking me ano mas mahirap aralin si back-end, pero pattern-based kasi ang back-end Pag sinabi kong pattern-based, kapag nakagawa ka na ng CRUD, for back-end, pwede mo na siyang gamitin sa lahat ng projects mo. Papalitan mo lang yung mga values. Iba ang usapan kapag front-end kasi magkakaiba ang applications. Pero the way things are being fetched sa API, they are all the same. So, fetch by ID.
So, mostly po talaga, pag back-end side, more on APIs po para sa front-end. Siguro hindi ko pa masyado naintindihan kasi I don't have any idea about the APIs po, kaya siguro medyo, may idea naman po ako sa JSON, pero hindi ko pa siya na-try. Kaya siguro ngayon medyo hindi ko siya nag-gets po. Pero soon po. Salamat po sa response po. Bali ngayon po. Try ko pong aralin po yung mga sinasabi po niyo. Salamat po.
Sige, ano yung next question, ma'am?
Janelle, you asked earlier about Java Spring Boot. Would you like to turn on your mic to ask it to yourself? If you're still here. Pakigalaw po ang baso.
Ano na siya.
Baka nag-drop na siya. Well, let's ano na rin. Try niyo pong i-address, Sir Emil. Tinanong niya kasi kung included daw ba yung Java Spring Boot sa platform
Yeah, actually,
natin.
Java Spring Boot is one of the stacks. No? So, kasi common misconceptions na iba, yung Java daw, hindi siya pwedeng gamitin for web application. In fact, design naman ng Java for JSP saka JSPL eh. So, pwede mo siyang gamitin for development ng full stack. So, ang framework na gamit is Spring Boot. So, it's running under Java lang. So, OOP yan ang magiging setup niya.
Okay, anything else na curriculum or topic related?
Mukhang wala naman.
Ayan, meron. Si Kenneth. Kenneth, you're asking?
Yes po. Ask ko lang po, ano pong maganda or okay po aralin na pang backend language po na napapanahon po?
JavaScript.
JavaScript.
Okay. JavaScript was designed originally for front-end. Kaya diniscuss ko kanina, di ba? Front-end siya eh. Client-side rendering siya. Pero sa ngayon, JavaScript is currently being used for both. Actually, using one language, you can create both eh. Pwede siya sa front-end, pwede siya sa back-end. React.js is for front-end. That's a framework or library for JavaScript. Yung Node.js, for back-end siya. And it's a framework running under JavaScript. So parang isipin mo ano siya, one language to rule them all. So parang ganun siya ka-powerful. And it's still improving. React was created by Facebook kasi currently si JavaScript may mga bagay sila na gustong gawin kay JavaScript pero hindi pa kayang gawin nung mga panahon na yon. That's why they created their own framework which is React. No? And it will be evolving in many years to come. Kasi si React medyo bago lang siya. Angular as well. So, kapag nakita kayo ng job application na 10 years of experience sa React, oh come on, that's not true. Kasi yung React kakagawa lang eh. Di ba? So just imagine yung requirement, 10 years ka na sa React. Yung React, ilang years pa lang, di ba? So, those job descriptions were created to intimidate you guys. So, may intimidate para yung talagang mag-a-apply, yung talagang malakas ang loob. Di ba? Kasi isipin mo 10 years, kaya ba yung 10 years? Yung React, ilang years pa lang siya nagagawa. So, paano ka magiging at least 110 experience, 10 years experience with React? So, that's impossible. So, if you're asking kung ano yung best language to learn for back-end, JavaScript. Well, JavaScript and Java. Yeah, those two languages. Python is also good. And Python kasi flexible siya. C# pwede rin.
Follow-up question po. Paano po nagagamit yung framework po? Example po sa JavaScript.
Okay. Let me show you. This is a full stack to. Yung React, paano siya ini-implement? Library siya. So, library siya. Ini-import siya. So, para makagamit ka ng React sa code mo, we have one component. Yan. Import mo siya. So, ganun na siya kadali. Okay, so, library-based kasi si React eh. So, in order for you to use React, doon sa project file mo, kailangan i-install mo siya. So, it appears as a form of parang library sets. Ayan, mga library sets. So, i-attach mo lang siya doon sa project mo. Pag na-attach mo na siya sa project mo, pwede ka nang gumamit ng mga commands methods or functions, I don't know if you're familiar with those terms, na kaya siyang i-read nung iyong JavaScript. Kasi without that, kunyari, wala kang React, naglagay ka ng React command, hindi niya ma-recognize yun. So, kailangan i-install mo muna si React or i-import mo yung mga necessary libraries para magamit mo siya.
So bali po, kailangan din po pala aralin yung mga nasa loob na mga function ni React po.
Those are yung mga essentials lang. Kasi marami yun eh. So sabi ko nga, di pwede mo naman kailangan kabisaduhin lahat. Definitely, there are functions there which are optional. And what's important for you to learn are those which is essential. Yung mga use effect, states, actions, ba? Online renders for JSON, yan. Yun yung mga importanteng aralin. At least you start with those. Kasi yung mga shortcuts, yung mga shortcuts usually comes along the way. So, they'll develop shorter ways of coding. Yeah. So, magugulat ka, may mga functions pala or methods si React na mas maikli. So, React is still currently updating pa naman. So, definitely madadagdagan pa yung mga existing commands. And they are also eliminating commands which is irrelevant or hindi masyado kailangan.
Okay po, thank you po.
Okay. Easy question. No? Dami kasi framework eh. So, try looking for a framework. Ang dami na. Hindi mo alam where will you start. So, syempre doon ka sa in-demand. Diba? Yun yung aralin.
May question ulit si Marvin and si Jarvis. Marvin, you're asking PHP?
Yes po. What about PHP for backend?
Laravel. Laravel kasi before Cake, PHP, and sa ngayon, I think Laravel is one of the best frameworks for backend na Laravel. I don't think it's currently being offered, pero sa platform meron din Laravel. Tama po ba, ma'am?
Parang napansin ko nga yun.
Meron.
Pero sa current stack natin, wala.
Currently being offered right now is Mern, Python for Django, at saka Java Spring. Those are the three stacks for web development.
Jarvis, you're asking about difference of React and Bootstrap.
Okay. So yung React, na-explain ko na kanina, no? It's for front-end rendering, yung React. Yung Bootstrap, it's for CSS or styling. So, kaya may idea ka. Bootstrap is a file. Yan. So, Bootstrap is a file. Da-download mo siya. So, pwede mo siyang i-link online. Ayan, tulad ng ginawa natin kanina. May mga script sources din siya. So, what comes with Bootstrap ba? So, yung mga nakalagay sa Bootstrap, it's for ayan, may mga classes na nakaset up dun sa style sheet na yon. So, what you need to do is to call it na lang. So, tatawagin mo na lang siya. Kaya siya tinawag na parang almost framework kasi, kunyari, dinownload ko na si Bootstrap. Diba? So, dinownload natin si Bootstrap. Si Bootstrap, i-attach mo siya dun sa project folder mo. Tapos, ililink mo yung HTML mo dun sa CSS na yun. So, para magamit mo yung mga nasa CSS ni Bootstrap, to download it. CSS file. So, ito yung links niya. Yeah. So, ito yung files ni Bootstrap. Medyo marami siya. Diba? So, yung ginawa natin kanina, isipin nyo si Bootstrap. Yan. May buo na siyang ganyan. all you need to do is to call for the classes. So that's what makes Bootstrap different from React. Kasi si React for front-end rendering, si Bootstrap, it's purely for styling. Kumbaga, hindi mo na kailangan manually kasi kanina nag-manual editing pa tayo, di ba? So nag-edit pa tayo manual ng CSS style sheet. So kung gagamit ka ng Bootstrap, all you need to understand or call is yung name ng class. Gagamitin mo na lang siya dun sa HTML mo. In short, hindi mo na kailangan mag-code no style sheet. Pero dapat alam mo kung ano yung class name ng tatawagin mo. So, yeah.
Bali po, ano po, yung sa Bootstrap po, di ka na po gagawa ng CSS file po.
Pwede kang mag-add ng classes, especially kung magko-customize ka. Kasi hindi naman lahat ng gagamitin mo or kailangan mo na kay Bootstrap na eh. So kung meron kang style na wala siya, that's the time na magdadagdag ka na sarili mong style sheet. Pero kung gusto mong mabilisan na, kasi may mga default styling na si Bootstrap eh. So kunyari, forms. Ayan o. So itong itsura na yan. Para makuha mo yan, tatawagin mo lang yung classes nila na ito. Diba? So no need for you to create your own CSS. You just need to call their class. You need to make sure na nakalink kayo kay Bootstrap or na-download nyo yung CSS file ni Bootstrap. So, yun. So that's how you use Bootstrap, by the way. Kaya yung iba nagtatanong, sir, bakit kasama sa work experience kailangan marunong? Kasi you need to be familiar on what are the class names eh. No? And by the way, hindi naman siya ganun kahirap aralin kasi meron naman documentation si Bootstrap. So, kunyari, ganito gusto mo itsura, you need to copy this. Diba? Nakopy mo na lang to, saka to. Diba? Ganito magiging itsura niya. Plus, hindi mo na siya kailangan gawa ng manual styling. Diba? Pwede mo pa siyang i-customize. So, these are the options or documentations na pwede mong gamitin para makagawa ka ng customized form without the bother of creating your own CSS. Kaya, parang shortcut siya. Parang shortcut. Basta, alam mo yung tatawaging class name. So, that's what's important. Hindi similar si Bootstrap sa React. They work differently. Okay? Si React, wala siyang kinalaman masyado with CSS. Although it can render CSS, pero ang focus niya is front-end rendering talaga. Si Bootstrap, styling. So, mga classes, IDs, mga namespaces na nakalagay doon.
All right, I think we can address this last question for now kasi I'm sure everybody would want to have their dinner. Chan, no, kindly turn on your mic, unmute, share with us your question. Or walang mic.
Okay. So question niya, pwede ba pagsamahin? Ang problema lang naman kapag gumamit ka ng multiple CSS na packages is, for example, Bootstrap, tapos gumamit ka pa ng Tailwind, if may keywords silang parehas, mag-overlap kasi yon. Okay? So let's say, yung keyword ni Tailwind for, meron siyang form label din. Si Tailwind. Tapos si Bootstrap po meron. Pag ginamit mo sila ng sabay, mag-overlap sila. So it's either kay Bootstrap yung kumagat or yung kay Tailwind. So yun yung problema doon. So what I usually recommend is you choose either Bootstrap or Tailwind. Or kung may gagamitin ka kay Tailwind, dapat wala siyang kapangalan or katumbas kay Bootstrap. Pwede ka rin naman mag-customize. Palitan mo yung class name niya kay Tailwind. That way, hindi niya magugulo yung kay Bootstrap. Pero yung limitations regarding pwede ba akong gumamit ng 2 or 3? Pwede. Basta walang kapangalan yung class names. Kasi pag magkapangalan yan, mag-overlap. Yun yung sagot doon sa question yan ni Chan. Pwede. Okay? So it's allowed.
Last na daw. Hindi, wala na. Sarado na tindahan, Jarvis. Na joke lang.
Yeah. So, ano na ito, no? Si Jarvis, oh.
Hello po, good evening po. Last question po. Okay lang po ba kumuha ng template galing sa internet then i-customize din para lang sa simple portfolio then tanggalin yung copyright then i-host. Yun po yung question ko.
Okay, so parang for portfolio mo ba?
Yes po, sana. Planning
Magamit
po
ka ng
kasi.
template. Ang problema dyan, okay, so wala naman siyang issue with regards na tatanggalin mo yung copyright, so on and so forth, yung
Apo.
footprint yan. Ang problema mo dyan, pag may nag-claim.
Ganun po
Okay,
pag
so
napansin po yung
so it's
design.
an instance that happens na you're claiming that ikaw yung original designer, lalo na kapag yung template na kinuha mo, may blueprint siya. So pag may blueprint yon, pwede siya mag-claim. So same with
Okay po.
other copyright materials as well. Wala ka namang problem unless someone claims na you're using or you're claiming that you're the one who created or used this particular template even though siya talaga. So doon nagkakaroon ng conflict or problem.
Okay po, salamat po.
Problem happens if that occurs. No? Pero if tatanungin mo kung pwede mong gawin, pwede. Okay? Wala ko sinabing hindi siya pwede. Pero if bad things happen, probably yun yung time na mapapaisip mo, sana di mo na lang ginawa. So yun naman yung mga ganun.
What they don't know won't hurt them. Pero if they know, it will hurt you. Ayun. Well, thanks for these questions. This batch is very interactive. I love it. I know there will still be questions kasi what we will do is I will communicate with you guys continuously. Bridge, your questions para sa instructor natin si Sir Emil. A round of applause for our instructor. You can use the, applause react. I'll email the recording as well. So that if you wanna go ahead and go back to today's lecture to get a better feel kung ito ba talaga is something na, lalo na kung career shifter ka, kung ito talaga ready ka ng panindigan, kasi that's what we look for in our students. Again, it doesn't really matter if you have if this is your first time being exposed to coding. We have had so many students in the US, US pa to, medyo accelerated ang schooling nila doon. I've helped US students who shifted their careers and are now, developers in the field. Let's talk. We are on Facebook, we are on Instagram, we're on LinkedIn, we have a website. You can check both US and PH websites, or email once I email you the recording. Let's talk further and, guide you through the next steps in pursuing your goals to enter the tech field. And for those looking to upskill, may mga naramdaman akong experience na dito. If you want to, take your game up to the next level, we would love to help you out. As you've seen, isa lang siya sa mga instructor namin sa web development. We have Sir Ez, who specializes in Python and practicing developer din, member of the academy. You'll meet him eventually. But yeah,